Rome in the 2nd century BC, a rising superpower, a chaotic political scene, and a cast of characters so dramatic, even a soap opera would blush. This is the story of the late Republic, where ambition, greed, and power plays set the stage for the fall of the Republic and the rise of an empire. The year is 200 BC, and Rome is at its peak. Kind of. By now, Rome had already defeated Carthage in the Second Punic War, and Hannibal, the guy who brought elephants over the Alps, was in exile. With their arch-rivals subdued, Rome wasn't just flexing its muscles in the Mediterranean, it was bench-pressing its way to domination. But Rome's success came with a side of drama. You see, with great power comes, well, great corruption. Wealth was pouring into the city faster than the Tiber River after a storm, and the divide between rich and poor was turning into a canyon. First up, let's talk about Rome's appetite for conquest. It was insatiable. Between 200 and 130 BC, Rome had its sights set on Greece, Macedon, and the Hellenistic world. The Macedonian Wars, particularly the Second Macedonian War, 200 to 197 BC, were a big deal. Rome went head-to-head with King Philip V of Macedon, and guess what? Rome won again. The Battle of Cynocephaly in 197 BC was a mic-drop moment for the Roman legions, proving they could outmaneuver even the famed phalanx formation. It was like watching a heavyweight boxer take down a legendary wrestler. But Rome didn't stop there. They got involved in the Seleucid War, taking on Antiochus III of the Seleucid Empire. By the time they were done, the Mediterranean wasn't just a sea, it was practically a Roman lake. Now, here's where things get juicy. All this conquering brought in loads of wealth, but instead of spreading the love, the Roman elite hoarded it like dragons sitting on gold. The average Roman citizen, they were left with breadcrumbs. This is where the phrase bread and circuses starts to make sense. The Roman government kept the masses entertained with gladiator games and cheap grain to distract them from the fact that their lives were, well, not great. And speaking of political chaos, let's talk about the Senate. The Roman Senate at this time was basically a country club for the rich. Senators were more concerned with lining their pockets and maintaining power than governing. Bribery? Backroom deals? Oh, they practically invented it. Enter the Gracchi brothers, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus. These two were like the Bernie Sanders of ancient Rome, pushing for reforms that would redistribute land and give the common people a fighting chance. Tiberius was the first to step up in 133 BC, proposing land reforms to limit how much land one person could own. Sounds fair, right? Not to the Senate. They were so enraged that they literally clubbed him to death. Yeah, ancient Rome didn't mess around. A decade later, Gaius picked up the torch. He pushed for even more radical reforms, like subsidized grain and extending citizenship to Rome's Italian allies. But the Senate wasn't having it. Gaius met a similar fate, ending his life during a violent crackdown. While all this political drama was unfolding, Rome's culture was undergoing a transformation. With their conquests in Greece, the Romans became obsessed with all things Hellenistic: art, philosophy, and even architecture. Greek tutors were all the rage among the Roman elite, and suddenly everyone was quoting Plato like they invented philosophy. But this cultural shift also created tension. Traditional Romans like Cato the Elder thought all this Greek influence was making Rome soft. Meanwhile, the Roman military was evolving, and not in a good way. Generals were becoming more powerful, commanding loyalty from their troops rather than the state. This was the beginning of a dangerous trend where armies were more loyal to their commanders than to Rome itself. And let's not forget the veterans. After years of fighting Rome's wars, many soldiers returned home to find their farms gone and no help from the government. This discontent would later fuel more unrest. By 130 BC, Rome was a paradox, a republic that dominated the Mediterranean but was rotting from within. The social inequality, political corruption, and militarization were all signs of trouble ahead. The late Republic wasn't just a time of expansion, it was the beginning of the end for the Republic itself. Over the next century, these cracks would widen, leading to civil wars, the rise of dictators, and eventually the fall of the Republic. So, there you have it. The late Republic in all its chaotic, fascinating glory. It was a time when Rome reached new heights but planted the seeds of its own downfall. And hey, If you enjoyed this trip back to ancient Rome, why not subscribe? I promise I won't club you like the Gracchi brothers. Also, let me know in the comments, what did you think? How can I make these videos even better? Your feedback is like a good Roman aqueduct. It keeps things flowing.